Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
Grenada is the first country to sign vesting order for Republic Bank acquisition of Scotiabank. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, October 16th, I am Rakisha St. Louis. Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell on Wednesday became the first regional leader to sign the vesting order required to facilitate the acquisition of the Bank of Nova Scotia operations by Republic Bank Financial Holdings Limited. The planned acquisition was first announced in 2018, and in September this year, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, in consultation with the ECCB Monetary Council, approved the application for the transfer of Scotiabank's assets and liabilities in Grenada and 5 other Caribbean countries. Dr. Mitchell, who is the current chairman of the ECCB Monetary Council, said it was important for Grenada to show leadership in the conclusion of the matter.
I see Republic Bank, given its history of banking relations with international institutions, as a very important factor in the decision that I made for Grenada's case. And I think the Monetary Council, when it debated the issue over and over, I think we felt that was a key factor.
Government has earned just over $2 million in taxes from the acquisition deal. More importantly, Dr. Mitchell said protecting the rights of workers was a key consideration in giving final approval to the acquisition, and he spoke of consultation with the Technical and Allied Workers Union in ensuring fair treatment of Scotiabank's employees. The Prime Minister spoke of the importance of banks in Grenada and other Caribbean countries having international relations with powerful banking institutions.
Every country that's involved in the union has an important role to play. And Antigua, given the size of the banking institution in Antigua, we cannot see this as just an issue for just individual countries. It has to be seen as a unified approach. And that's why we've been counseling our friends throughout the region, and Antigua in particular, that we need to do this together.
Also present at Wednesday's signing ceremony was Scotiabank's Managing Director, Caribbean East, Mr. David Parks, Managing Director, Republic Bank, Mr. Keith Johnson, and President General of the Technical and Allied Workers Union, Senator Andre Lewis. They all expressed the confidence that the interest of workers was well protected in the acquisition. A memorandum of understanding between Scotiabank and TAU was signed in September, setting out provisions to safeguard the rights of workers with respect to continued employment or severance. The role of government in facilitating the transaction was also recognized, and assurances were given that customers would continue to experience excellent customer service and appreciation expressed for the loyalty of customers over the years. Continuing with the news, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell will present the 2019-2020 estimates of revenue and expenditure on Wednesday, November 20th at the Houses of Parliament at Mount Weldale. The 2020 budget presentation, like the throne speech, will highlight strategic priorities aligned to the National Sustainable Development Plan 2020-2035. The estimates will focus on putting Grenadians at the center of inclusive and sustainable development, competitive economic transformation, and security. During a budget retreat in August, Dr. Mitchell said, and I quote, "Government recognizes that there is much work to be done to advance its sustainable development agenda and to build resilience. Therefore, the plan will serve as an anchor of the country's development agenda for the period 2020 to 2035, unquote. The presentation of the budget follows months of consultations throughout the island with stakeholders who outlined the areas they wish to see addressed in the budget. Prime Minister Mitchell's presentation of the 2020 estimates of revenue and expenditure will commence at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, November 20th. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Grenada, it's coming as the Ministry of Youth, Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts brings to you National Youth Week 2019, and it's one full week of activities, vibes and action as the nation turns their attention on the nation's youth. And it's from Saturday, October 19 till Saturday, November 2nd under the theme Embracing Opportunities, Sowing Higher. October 19th and 20th, National Community Service Weekend, island-wide. October 26th, Health Walk and Ministers Address. October 28th, WeiVybz. October 29th, St. John's Youth Parliament. October 30th, Job Fair and Career Day. October 31st, Fun Nights. November 1st, Discovering Talents and Expo. November 2nd, it's National Youth Awards. Sunday, November 3rd, Ecumenical Service and Peace Concert. So urging everyone to be a part of Youth Week 2019, October 19th to November 2nd.
Welcome back. Government is moving towards implementing a ban on smoking in public places, including vaping and e-cigarettes. The announcement was made on Tuesday by Legal Affairs Minister Honorable Kendra Mathurin Stewart. She said, although there is no legislation in place banning the importation, sale and use of e-cigarettes, government has to act now to avoid health hazards and high death toll, as is evident in other countries. E-cigarettes are battery-powered devices that work by heating a liquid into an aerosol that the user inhales and exhales, while vaping is the act of inhaling and exhaling the aerosol, often referred to as vapor, which is produced by an e-cigarette or similar device. Minister Mathurin Stewart said Cabinet took a policy decision to pass and enact various legislations to ban smoking in public places.
E-cigarettes is available in Grenada. There is absolutely no legislation at present which prohibits or restricts the importation or sale and use of e-cigarettes here in Grenada. And while we have not yet received any reports of any adverse health effects of vaping from our nationals, we have seen some worrying trends, and we cannot, as a government, wait until we have an issue on our hand to deal with this. So we as a government has been very proactive, and as a government we intend to put legislation in place to ensure that our health system is no longer compounded by illnesses related to vaping.
She explained that there will be public and stakeholder engagements to get buy-in before a final decision is made.
We are looking at banning smoking in public places. We are also looking at enacting legislations to deal with the importation, sale, and use of e-cigarettes, which includes vaping. Now, before you pass certain legislations, you would appreciate that we need to hold certain consultations and discussions also. So what we have come up with is policy, what is government's policy on with respect to this issue. And so in going forward, even before these legislations are enacted, even before we go to Parliament, we will engage all the stakeholders so that they can have an input as to what the final legislation would look at. But this is really the importation, the ban on the importation, the ban on the sale, and the ban on the use is what we is a broader area that we're going to look at in terms of the legislation.
Finally, in the news, plans are in train to ensure operations at the Maribor Abattoir are at an international standard. Mina Booker, Public Relations Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture, reports on a national biosafety plan that will be developed for this purpose. Efforts are underway to develop a national biosafety plan that will guide the operations at the Marable Abattoir in St. Andrew. Management, staff and butchers of the facility are this week involved in a capacity building initiative with the Inter-American Cooperation on Agriculture, or ICA's agricultural health specialist, Dr. Maxine Paris-Aaron. This is one of a number of initiatives to build capacity for butchers and staff by the Inter-American Cooperation on Agriculture that has been supporting development of the facility since 2018. The training, which began on Monday 14th October, is aimed at developing a biosafety plan, development of a prerequisite hazard analysis and critical control point, or HACCP safety plan, with the goal of becoming HACCP compliant, and the promotion of occupational health and safety standards.
We are interested in food safety, but we're also interested in the safety of the workers at the abattoir. There are a number of risk factors in the abattoir. There are hot water tanks, you have sharp objects, you have moving parts, you have equipment, electrical current running through. And many times people can get injured by not doing the right thing. So we recently purchased a number of signs where you can put in strategic places to warn people if there is hot water or slippery floor and things like that. So to make sure, because we think we have an interest in the people who work. We don't just want to have an interest in the food safety, but we have an interest in the people who actually carry out the work here.
That's Derek Charles, the national specialist for ICA. Consultations started with Dr. Paris last year when she first began assessing the operations of the abattoir. This year she has returned to streamline the operations.
What will happen, or what has started to happen really, is a conversation with the staff of the abattoir to ensure that I understand how things are happening as it is now and what needs to be done to bring it up to standard. Basically, the standards we're looking at is international standards for operations. However, you have to start somewhere. And in a lot of cases, it's difficult to jump from where you are into international. There's several steps that have to be taken. So we're looking at those steps that Grenada need to take as it is right now in order to get to where it has to be if it's going to operate as not only a regional entity, a national or regional entity, but operate at international levels.
Acting Chief Veterinary and Livestock Officer Dr. Kimond Cummings says the ministry remains committed to working with ICA as it endeavors for the facility to become an internationally recognized one.
It just shows the seriousness, and how important the Ministry of Agriculture takes on the issue of food safety and food security. Today the training would be more specifically tailored around occupational safety. So if you look, you'll see quite a bit of signs as signage. So there'll be lots of signs going up and so. In the past coming days, me and Dr. Paris would sit to put together some plans, some TRs that would help the operation to be a bit more smoother and reduce the risk of any occupational hazard that workers here might encounter.
An international facility will help to build customers' confidence by processing safe and quality meats, thus increasing production and reducing the level of backyard butchering done under poor handling practices and unhygienic standards. It will also ensure that employees are aware of occupational and safety standards when operating equipment. ICA supports 38 countries, including Grenada, lending support in agriculture and other areas. For the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Mina Booker. Thank you, Mina. That story just ended the national report for today, Wednesday, October 16th. Let's recap the top story. Grenada is first country to sign vesting order for Republic Bank acquisition of Scotiabank. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
up and conquer them. Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days.
Good morning, the good people of Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. It's a beautiful day as per usual in the Spice Isle of Grenada. A little bit of drizzle, but nonetheless still a beautiful day. A special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio, and that's broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and 94.9 We Noise Radio in Brooklyn, New York. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada, where we aspire to bring you the facts and to keep you informed on what's happening in the country. So our lines are open from the very beginning today, 440-7377. You can call and just let us know what's going on in your little nook, your little corner in the country. All right, we'll be happy to hear from you. Of course, there's a lot happening within the country, a lot of buzz, a lot of people sharing opinions, a lot of emotions, but apart from all of that, we are still lucky as a people here in Grenada, and we must not forget that. Of course, we want to remind you that the new National Party will be having their convention, and that's going to be on the 27th of October, right? And that's at the MacDonald College. So we're inviting all of our supporters, if you want to come and be a part of our evening session. All right, and I believe that begins about 3 o'clock. You can come out and just enjoy a good evening with us. Of course, the morning session is closed for delegates and the executives. So if you want to join us, you can join us at 3 in the afternoon. So it's been a busy week. It's been a wonderful week. Of course, Sheldon is not here with us this morning. He had some business to attend to, and Devon is still nursing his arm. Hopefully, he'll be back with us sometime next week. So we definitely do look forward to that. Of course, we want to keep you reminded, as the little drizzle is happening. We want to keep you reminded that the Ministry of Health, their Vector Control Division, they'll be doing some fogging, and that's today in the True Blue area, and that's at 5 o'clock. So you definitely want to be mindful of that. Keep your doors and windows open if possible. Well, not really if possible, it's absolutely necessary for you to at least keep a window open so that the fog can circulate throughout your house. And ensure that if you have anyone with any respiratory conditions, that you would want to ensure that they are safeguarded during that time. And of course, we want to do our part as Grenadians to ensure that there isn't really that much breeding of mosquitoes, right? So you do want to make sure that you clean your areas, ensure that it's nice and clean, and that you throw out any water that may be settling. All right, so we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with some more details and facts for you.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
The Anti-Tech Literary Festival from October the 17th to the 19th. Join the Grenada Cultural Foundation, showcasing the works of local writers, poets, and folklorists. The festival starts with a literary day on Thursday the 17th with book readings by local writers in several designated schools and a literary social evening at Port Louis from 7 p.m. Friday 18th is Bonfire Night at the Grenville Bus Terminal grounds starting at 7 p.m. with storytelling, drumming, dancing, and ring games. Come join us. Bring your stories. It's a bakes and fish cake, cocoa tea, and bush tea event. On Saturday 19th from 1 p.m., the book reading and poetry slam takes place in the Spiceland Mall food court and will be carried live on GIS. Come join us as we celebrate our authors, our poets, and our storytellers. The Anti-Tech Literary Festival, produced by the Grenada Cultural Foundation.
Morning. You can sit down anywhere you want. Good morning and welcome. Feel free to have a seat at any of the available tables. I'll bring a menu to you shortly.
If you had to choose between great customer service and not so good customer service, which one will you choose? Remember, tourism is everybody's business.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
My enemies' walls are bound to crumble, and to the floor their spears will...
All right, and we are back. And of course, I do want to. Yesterday, we had a wonderful conversation with the Minister of Trade, who is an economist himself, and he would have explained to us the reason as to why the passport is the price that it is. And I just want to say that we are all entitled to our opinions. We are all entitled to exhibit an emotional reaction to something that we are affected by. And that's okay. That's all right. But at the end of that emotional reaction, we must see reason and we must see logic. And I've read and continue to read comments, and, you know, it's sad when all people see is party and all people see is your political affiliation, and they don't read the facts and they don't read the message and they don't care about the message. They care about the messenger, and that's sad. So we would have taken the time to explain why the passport is the price that it is. And I don't think it's something that we need to continue to linger on, because these are the facts. We have a producer, right? A producer that is giving us a quality product, right? And I believe it's CBN, Canadian Banknote Company Limited. They are the producers of our passport. And we have had a long-standing relationship with these people, right? And they have also facilitated Grenada's transition from, the handwritten to machine-readable passports in 2001. So it's not a company that we just picked out of the blue. We have had a long-standing relationship with these people, right? And the government is fully confident that they would have been able to deliver the quality product, right, with the best international standards for our passports. And that is what they have done. As a matter of fact, when our passports were introduced, we got a letter from the U.S. Embassy stating that that is the best quality and that everyone should aspire to reach that quality that Grenada has. So we continue as a people to thrive. We continue as a nation. The name Grenada, the standards that are held in Grenada, continue to thrive internationally. But we as a people are the ones that are pulling ourselves down and ourselves back because of emotional responses and not taking time to think about things logically. It's okay to have an emotional response. We all have emotional responses. We all have our own views and ideas of how things should be. But at the end of the day, it is not how you think it should be, but it's how it has to be that will benefit Grenada as a whole. It's not how it should be. It's not how you think it can be, but it's how it has to be to benefit Grenada as a whole. So we have to be mindful of that. So when the e-passports were offered at the cost of $175, everybody rushed to get their passport. They were so impressed with the quality and the standards. Even the people who traveled, they were so amazed at the ease in which they traveled. No more long lines in immigration. They go and they swipe their card, their passport in the kiosk, and they can just move through freely. Everybody they were happy. They were glad. It was $175. It was a quality passport. Now, mind you, while it was $175, the government still had to pay the producer $300. And guess where that $300 was coming from? They didn't get a loan or a grant to subsidize this. This was from their revenue. Taxpayers' dollars was going towards subsidizing the cost. Now, some of you may say, oh, well, it's our money, let's pay it still. But then let's still take into consideration, if the government has to spend this kind of money on just a passport, there are people in Grenada who still suffer as a result of it. And then we still argue the fact that, oh, well, poor people won't be able to buy a passport. While we are concerned with poor people not being able to buy a passport, you know what the poor people are concerned with? They are concerned with their next meal. They are concerned with the government providing adequate housing. They are concerned with the government providing scholarships for their children to advance themselves. These are the things that the poor people that we are talking about are concerned with. And it's ironic that we only consider the less fortunate when we stand to gain from whatever they benefit. And that is just the raw truth of the matter. So you hear a lot of people out there talking about, oh, well, the less fortunate can't get a passport, the less fortunate. Where are we? Where are we, or where were we when the less fortunate people could not get scholarships for their children that they are now able to take advantage of? We have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hello?
Hi, good morning, caller.
Miss Duncan. Hello?
Hi, good morning.
Miss Duncan?
Yes, Miss Wells, how are you? You're live?
I'm listening to you, but there was a delay. That's why I didn't realize you picked up the call.
Yes.
Let me apologize for not coming in studio. I know I would love to have sit in that blue chair with you.
Yes.
But things have happened as we progress. We're looking at the weather kind of churning up out there.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many things happening today. But I certainly would like to, very interesting topic on that passport issue. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
But I have my own opinions on that. You
Right.
know, sometimes we look at things in a very myopic kind of way.
Absolutely.
And when we talk about passport, I have seen the comparison of the other islands, and one of the things that the individuals are not saying is that this is an electronic passport.
Yep.
And a lot of the other islands that they would have featured, they don't have electronic passports. And
Absolutely.
It is costly to
Mm-hmm.
to make an electronic passport, and we must understand that. They want to go back to the old passport, and that is their business. But I like my new passport, so
Of
I'm
course.
prepared to pay for it. That's my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anyway, we have more important things to talk about than that.
Of course, and I know I would have loved for you to be here because I had so many questions for you.
And I also want to say on the 5-year, 10-year thing,
Mm-hmm.
that is not something that is isolated to Grenada. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah.
It was said because of terrorism and people features can change within a 10-year period.
Yeah.
It was advised that countries go to the 5-year for the passport. I myself, I could tell you, 10 years ago I looked different to how I am now.
Me too.
When I was slimmer or fatter, or the cheeks go, or the hair change, or whatever the case may be. So we have to be open-minded and be researching people. We're not researching; we're just jumping the gun most of the time.
Of course.
But anyway, so be it.
Yes.
I just want to talk about something more cultural,
yes,
and more entertaining, and more, for folks in a few minutes. It's the Anti-Tech Spice Word Literary Festival.
Yes.
That is happening over the next few days. As a matter of fact, we have already started out. As I speak to you, a number of published writers are engaging with the schools In an exercise this morning, we have called today Literary Day.
Right.
And they are in 2 schools in St. Andrew Catholic and Anglican, Methodist, and they're in Sautez at the St. Patrick RC, and in St. David at St. Teresa RC as we speak, reading their works to the children, engaging them in dialogue, listening to them as to their interest in writing, and some of the children may have little poetry and that sort of thing. So then very engaging morning with the schools.
Right.
And we know we have to start at the primary level if we want to interest our children into more reading and writing
of
and
course.
so on. Then we have a little social gathering at Port Louis where the writers going to get together and exchange their work and listen to their stories, read from their books, etc. And that's what's going to be happening today. Tomorrow is a bonfire night up in Grenville at the bus terminal, and that is something that is very much in keeping with the personality of the iconic folklorist Thelma Phillip, who this is in her honor. It's the Auntie Tech. Auntie Tech is from Thelma Phillip. She was Grenada's folklorist, one of the recognized in the Caribbean, as a matter of fact, featured in the book Who is Who in the World, so it's with Auntie Lou and these big people, So we are going to be engaging in ring games. When last you play a ring game?
Oh, God, the last time I taught my class. That was about a year ago.
Where we needed to get you up there tomorrow night.
Yes.
Auntie Nanny Tread and
Needle,
bang, tread.
Yes.
I remember one year when we were doing that in Bartway and the needle went in the wrong way and the thread went the next way and it was real melee.
It's usually so much fun.
Oh my goodness. So that is going to take place. We're going to be singing and dancing and drumming, and we're also going to be having local food. Long ago when people used to go on moonlight night in the backyard and have these engagements, and they would bring all the fish cake and the bakes and the salsa sauce and the smoked herring. So we're going to be having that available. We're also going to be having bush tea, lemongrass tea and cocoa tea and local juice, lime juice and what have you. We want the children to experience that.
Wonderful.
Yeah?
Now, would they also be having this same bonfire event with Miss Thelma Phillip? Would that also be featured in St. George at any
We have
time?
done that. What we tried to do is to take it to the various parishes. And we started out in St. George's, as a matter of fact, on Grandlands Beach, Camerhon Park. And we've been bringing it across the island. We've gone to Guelph, we've gone to Victoria. Last year was in Victoria. We've been to Bathway, and now we're going to Grenville. Yeah, so it's a traveling bonfire.
Right. Now, I used to be a scout mistress, and I would tell, when we have camp with the boys, the night that they enjoy the most would be the bonfire night.
Oh, indeed.
They would enjoy that the most, and we would bring in drummers, and we have this gentleman who would come and he would do folk stories with them, and it was just a wonderful night. So if more of the parishes and more of the just the little villages can do that, to kind of keep the culture alive, then that would be great.
Oh yes, and we have Mrs. Steele, Pamela Steele, and she is someone who's been involved with Auntie Tech over the years, so she knows the Nancy story.
Right.
Bear Nancy and all his kind of friends, Compare Zion, Compare Ting, and Compare Snake, and compare everybody.
We don't have those stories in schools anymore,
No, it doesn't happen.
We don't. I loved those stories to hear about Nancy and all of his tricks.
Yeah, and then she is so versed with a lot of stories that would have happened within the community on the Caranage and Green Street and Lucas Street, and who fall along in the sea and who do this, and she has one where a lady make a cake with concrete, with cement.
Oh my!
And, so and we invite people within the island who have stories that they want to come and tell the crowd, whether they write some humorous thing or they know of something that happened in the village, certainly come and share it with us. They sing all the old folk songs, and people just enjoy themselves, If they want to dance to the drumming, they do so. A very, very engaging activity, and that's going to be taking place up there tomorrow night from 6:30ish, 6:45, when the sun starts to disappear. We light up the bonfire right to the seaside of the bus terminal.
Right.
That's where we're going to be tomorrow. That's Friday, and then Saturday we do a live on GIS with what we call the live book reading and poetry slam.
Mm-hmm.
We usually feature one of our local writers, and this year we're featuring Roger Bayer. He has been a Vietnam vet. He has written a book on that, and he also has another one called Granny's Bathroom, I think, which is a collection of short stories. So we're going to be featuring him as a feature writer. Of course, there will be other authors involved in reading from their books and so on. And there's an open mic as well for persons who would have written things like poems and short story and, whatever. They can certainly come and deliver there, get an opportunity to expose their work.
Right.
We collaborate with Art and Soul, so there'll be a book exhibition. Books will be on sale. The writers have an opportunity as well to sell their published work, autographed copies, and, just engage in a very wholesome atmosphere for family and just something that is so important to us. We talk about the people not reading. We talk about the people not engaging in the word and researching and getting facts and proper information.
Yeah.
And we have to continue the journey to ensure that we keep that presence there.
Of course.
From a literary perspective, so people can start changing the dynamics of how we live. We're not saying to you that don't depend on technology, because you can read via technology.
Yes.
Most of these books are available in ebook form online.
Yes.
So that is basically it in a nutshell, and we're really looking forward to engaging people in a real positive way for the rest of the days.
Right.
Yeah?
Right. Well, Shama, let me just say that my current study, my major is literacy studies right now with the University of the West Indies. And what we have learned is that a lot of people think literacy is just the ability to read. But it is more than that. It is reading for understanding, and it's something that we don't do a lot. We don't read to understand. We read just to know, but not to understand. And it's something we really need to be mindful of. So yes, the technological age, we're in it, but we don't want to lose, the purpose of the book,
Somebody said to me once, it's such a pleasure to turn the pages of a book.
Of course. Of course. I still do it.
But we're hopeful that, the local writers would certainly get a lot of recognition via this platform. It's a platform for them.
Yes.
I think it's the only one that's available to them at this time. So we continue to keep this alive. The Anti-Tech has been going on for more than 10 years now. As small as it may appear to people, it is very impactful on those who engage in it. And that is key to us. Yeah?
And we have so many local writers, that we don't really hear about. So many people gifted with that skill.
Well, let me tell you something I found out on this exercise, because we keep building on them, the data on them, and I found out on this exercise this year, we have gotten into the 70s. There's 70-something of them out there.
See, there we go.
Living in Grenada and living in the diaspora. So we have a lot of writers.
Yeah.
A lot of writers. And we invite all of them to come out and be part of the whole process. It's their days ahead of them, their opportunity to showcase their work.
Yes,
yeah?
Absolutely.
But before I go, I heard a gentleman suggesting to you that you run for office. Well, Hannah, if that is your thing, girl, go for it.
Thank you for the encouragement.
Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. I have a busy day ahead of me.
Before you leave, is it possible that you can... Oh, no, we seem to have a feedback.
Echo. Yeah. Tell me.
Right. Is it possible that you can speak with us regarding Festival of the Lights? I hear that's coming up. Is it something new to Grenada? Because I don't think I remember us ever having one.
Yes, it is new. It is spearheaded by GTA, the Tourism Authority. It's going to be 2 weekends of activities on the Carriacou, the 6th and 7th of December, and the following weekend, which would be the 13th and the 14th. The light's going to stay on through the season into, as a matter of fact, converted into Independence. That's the plan.
Right.
And what is going to happen from the GTA building right across the Carriacou will be light up with environmental lights, and they're using a lot of solar lights because, you know, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about conserving on energy and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of that will be the focus, the solar lights. There's also plans for a lot of the yachts that are in the stream and in lagoon to light up their boats as well. There's going to be culture, there's going to be singing, we're going to have a Santa Claus. The children, of course, we must involve them because it's Christmas time. So the plans are being developed now, and maybe next week we can come on and talk with you a little more on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah? And not forgetting, we also have a Christmas in the Gardens that's going to be taking place on the 15th of December as well.
Right.
So a lot of things coming for December. Folks, get ready.
Of course, of course.
It's Christmas.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Of course, we hope to have you in studio soon again so we can discuss some more.
Yes, and keep the good work going, girl.
I'll do my best.
All right. Later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, and there you have it, Mrs. Sherma Wells, and she was giving us an update on the anti-tech literary production that they're putting on. Of course, you want to definitely be a part of that. I do believe that they have some more information on the website. I'll try to get that on our page as soon as we're off so that you know exactly where to go. I know definitely if I can get to Grenville, Nazim, I'm definitely taking my kids because that is something that you want to be a part of. And of course, we want to encourage all of the groups, Cub Scouts, Brownies, all of these groups to just make it an event for your groups. Bring your girls, bring your boys, bring your teams up there and just make it a grand event. We have another caller on the line.
Hey,
good morning, caller.
Duncan.
Good morning.
How everything?
I'm good.
Yeah, Duncan, we're listening to people complain about the passport.
Okay, I don't want to cut you, Mr. Lewis, but your radio at the back, yes.
Okay, let call back. Okay.
Hello? Okay, I think he's going to call back. He's going to call back. All right. So remember, when you're calling in, we love to hear from you. We love your calls. But when you call, please try to lower your radio down or turn it off because, of course, there's a lag in the actual telephone call and what you hear on the radio. All right. So try and try to do that so we don't get that feedback. But yes, bring your brownies, bring your Cub Scouts. These children love these things. They love it. So let them be a part of that. Nazim, do we have another caller? Good morning, caller.
Duncan.
Good morning.
Everything.
All right.
We're going to listen to people complain about the cost of the passport and poor people would be able to buy a passport.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I hear the complaint of these people and them, I do what they're trying to encourage the poor people to understand that, to lose focus on the main need of the poor and vulnerable people is housing. It's housing, and this is what the government is doing, building better housing units for people to live in. Right? Because there are some people that complain about it. They're in a proper home, a home where they're trying to feel comfortable. But the poor people, they need better housing, and the government is doing that. Right now, there are 600 houses going up. Where the government will be reaching out to the poor and needy people to have a better living condition. But you see, these people they complain and talk about the passport. It's trying to take out the poor people from that focus of better housing and make them focus on passport. We don't say in the passport, someone should have a passport. Right? Yes, it's good to have a passport. What is his priority? It's a home. It's a better home where people live and feel comfortable.
That's correct.
Right? And when you see some people that complain that when they have a proper home, they don't want people who don't have a proper home to live in. They want them to stay. This is how they want to develop themselves. And I say the government right now is construction of about 600 houses right now is on stream, and is the poor people that will get in that home to live to better their living condition. Right? Yes, Pastor come in. Your children getting scholarship for the children. Right? Education, small businesses. Improvement in the housing in program for people to develop themselves. That is priority. Yeah. Yes, passport will come after. Well, when you get empty, you can get a passport. Right? So I want to say the detractors and people trying to change people, the people going there, stay focused. Housing is important. Everybody wants to live in a proper home, a comfortable home. And that is what the government is doing now to make people life better, to better living condition of the Grenadian people. So, Ms. Duncan, you have a wonderful God bless you.
All right. I definitely do agree with the caller. I mean, there are so many other pressing matters that the less fortunate are concerned with than the price of a passport. And, whenever we choose to travel, in most cases it's a choice. Whenever we choose to travel, even if it's not a choice and it's something that is meant to be done as an emergency or something like that, we find a way. We always find a way because we know what our priorities are. We go to our ministers and our representatives for so many other things. I don't believe that if somebody is in dire need of a passport and cannot truly afford it, and they go to their representative, that their representative is going to turn them down. So we have options. So let's not just paste it cut and dry as the poor cannot afford it and the government is I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We have another call on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am good. This is the radio station, yes?
Yes, Hard Talk.
Sorry?
Yes, it's Hard Talk. You're live.
Yes. What I think people need to focus on is the $250 for the passport. Isn't that for 5 years?
It is over 5 years. It's actually $50 a month and $50 a year and $4.16 a month.
Maybe you should repeat that it's only $50 a year. That would maybe, make them not comment so much.
Well, actually, we have tried that. There are just some people, you can't convince them no matter what you say. They just see things one way objectively, and no matter how many points of view you give them, that is just how they see it. And it's not because they choose to choose to see it differently. It's just that some of them just don't support the administration. And it doesn't matter whatever the
progress is not free.
Exactly. And that is so true. The price of progress, it's not free. It could never be free. You're right.
So, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You're so correct. Thank you so much for calling.
You're welcome.
The caller is right. The price of progress, it's not free. It's not cheap either. I mean, we sit here and we complain about $250 for a passport, but yet we go to the immigration office in Barbados and we pay close to $400, close to $500 for a visa to go to America and spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. And I'm not saying that's not your right. It is. It is your right. But then you cannot have all of these luxuries and all of these possibilities for yourself and still want to, at the end of the day, say that the passport is too expensive for the poor. Let's take this into consideration. What have we, the ones complaining, done to help the poor recently? How many poor people in your constituency, in your community, in your village have you assisted? How many school shirts have you bought for a child that is whose parent is unable to do that? How many school books have you provided for a child whose parents are unable to do that? And the first thing we do when we see a person in need and asking for assistance, who sent that person and make all that children? But you see, that's not the point. We complain only about the poor when we stand to benefit from it. So if they were to reduce the price of the passport, the poor still cannot afford the reduced price. They still cannot afford it because they are not concerned with holding a passport. They are concerned with how their children go to school. They are concerned with how their children eat. They are concerned with a roof over their heads. These are the things. Some of them cannot even afford to pay a bus to go from. And that's a sad reality of it. And that is why this government is hell-bent on ensuring that the needs of the less fortunate are met, that opportunities are created so that they are able to advance themselves, that they are able to create a better lives for themselves and for their children. And this is how we need to see it. When we pay $250, the government stands to gain nothing. The government gets no revenue from the $250 that we pay for the passports. And we have to understand that. It's not a money-making business. The price of production is high because of the security feature. It is an electronic passport. It is what is being recommended worldwide. It is an international feature. So we are going to wait until one day somebody from somewhere in the world that is a terrorist steals our identity, and then we will say the government has done nothing to protect its people from terrorism. That is what we are waiting for. Because that is what we do as Grenadians. We wait for something to go wrong. But when the government tries its best to avoid it, we complain about the procedure. We complain about the process. We complain about the price. How do we expect to advance as a people? Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning to you, ma'am, and good morning to Sheldon.
Good morning, Miss Cammy.
Devon. Good morning, and morning to Mr. Watt and Mrs. Watt in New York. And Mr. Depodine, good morning. Patricia in Canada. And Matthew in Canada, good morning.
Yeah.
Today is a rainy day in Grenada, and all the Grenadians out there, good morning. Yeah. But why are you worrying about this? You're worrying about the passport, the money, $200 and how much dollars? Eh?
Mm-hmm.
How much? $250?
$250.
You know, people buy telephone. If digital passing now, and they say they have a savings phone, and they just buy, they don't complain. They don't complain. I'm going in a street, Lord, and bringing my phone, my passport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is important.
Yeah.
1,000 something to go in Barbados. So yeah, you visa, sometimes you didn't get it.
Yep.
And you lose that money.
Yeah.
You know, so you cannot worry about the people that are complaining about that. I saw the things they're playing.
Yeah.
Don't worry about them. If they really want to passport, they're going to buy it. They'll pay for it.
Yeah.
That's small change for a lot of people. But the people that are complaining, that's the haters.
Mm-hmm.
It's the haters. You understand?
Yeah.
You buy a phone for $1,000 something just to gossip. To gossip. And you're getting a phone, a passport for $250 for 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, I get sick of these people and everything. So now I don't want to do it, you know. I was tired with that. Instead of, you know, you support the people in the government, you are condemning everything they do. Boss and take what you want. And as you said, how much of them that do something in the community for a poor person? Look at me, I suffer in both legs. Nobody never come and say, Miss Cammy, what's going on? You know, how you making it? You know, I don't understand. Don't worry them. If they really want it, they'll have to pay the money for it. You know? I don't understand.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. And good morning again to everybody. You know? They don't, everything they turn into politics in Grenada. They're not supporting nothing. And they want to go in power. They want this, they want that. They want to go in power. They don't do nothing for people. All these people are opposing about the passport. Yeah. They don't do nothing for Grenada and they love Grenada. People love your country, glad.
Yeah.
They don't love Grenada. God Almighty have mercy on us. Anyhow, we have a blessed day. They're listening, you know. And continue to do what you have to do, what you do it.
Thank you, Miss Cammy.
And good morning to everybody in Grenada. You know.
Yes. Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Thank you so much for calling, Miss Cammy. We always love to hear from you. All right. Now, somebody was just telling me that what if the government decided to make this an option of paying $50 a year as opposed to $250 all at once. Let me just say this. Whether the government chooses to make it $50 a year, $20 a year, $10, you will still find people who will condemn it because they just believe that some things in Grenada or all things in Grenada must come cheap. The price of progress is not cheap. We have an overseas call on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Am I on air or
yes,
on hold?
You're on air.
Hi. Okay. I'm calling from Brooklyn.
All right. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm not Grenadian. I'm Jamaican, but I just love to hear different cultures and how things are functioning.
Right.
So I just really am happy that you guys have an electronic passport. I mean, being in New York, it's like, you know what? That's a great idea. We would love to have something advanced technology as that. And it's great to have the U.S. Embassy congratulating that as well. So the thing is that I was hearing a lot of us saying the poor people, they're saying, you know, why can't it be more beneficial for them? But there again, is the poor people the one calling in and saying, hey, you need to do something about this? They don't care about that, which is true. Because if any one of us in the middle class going to say, all right, we get, sometimes things happen and we get depressed and there's no money comes in, we're not thinking about passports or the next dress or whatever. We're thinking about where my food is, where we get money for rent, where we're not thinking about other things that people think that is so important. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the priorities are different. So the poor people is not complaining about that. They're not on the air or calling up people and saying, hey, you know, I need to be more cheaper. And what you said was right. If you reduce the price, they're still going to complain.
Yeah.
You know, so it's always a complaint no matter what it is in general. People are never going to be happy with price. You know, you have to know your worth. And since you know your worth, you stick by it. Because it attracts to the people who, you know, is for that.
Yeah.
If you're not for it, then that's on you. But it's always going to be negativity on things, especially when it comes to price on anything. Even a pair of shoes, they want it to be $5 less. For what? You know, it's everybody wants things to be free. But unfortunately, we're not in the world where everything is free.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then we have no problems. But that's how it is. So, you know, you have to get with the program or not. And I really I'm just happy that you guys actually have that type of passport. I know it's expensive, and you even said about $400, $500 to come and travel for 4 weeks or a month. That's crazy. Like, I mean, I'm thinking nothing expensive, but there's a reason why it's like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's people who's trying to get their visa right now to come up for a year, and it's so hard just to even get a simple visa. So it's just so many different things. And I mean, I just have to commend of the topic that you brought up today, because love to learn something new.
All right, great. Thank you so much for calling and sharing with us. It's good to hear from a fresh voice, somebody that's not even a citizen that's listening to us. And that's what we aspire to do. We aspire to engage people of all classes and all cultures and everybody to listen to what's happening in Grenada, because sometimes you're out there in the diaspora and you're listening and you're thinking that everything is all bad here in Grenada when there's so many good things happening. So thank you so much for calling.
Of course, no problem. Keep it up.
All right. So guys, you heard it. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my dear heart. How are you doing, sweetheart?
Good morning, Miss Jacob. How are you?
Oh, Lord, I'm feeling blessed.
That's wonderful.
Because I get a nice shower.
Yes, yes.
From morning, getting the shower, and it is wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yes, girl. You know something, girl? Boy, a class, girl. We're having a church service next Friday. You must talk about it.
Yes.
Yes, talk about the church service. I will be there. And then on the 27th again, I will be there. And this kind of high God. You see this, I don't afraid to call his name. This boy and GBN. He and Calistra, however she named, she was with him, how they call him, last night.
Mm-hmm.
How you name again? Not Tony. Help me with the name now.
Basinski.
Godfrey Augustine.
Oh, Godfrey Augustine.
If you see Godfrey Augustine go ask Calistra last night, you go still go and ask the Prime Minister about this woman that is not his wife. And she said, yes, she going to ask him. But I hope the doc mustn't answer no question. That is the business. Not only doc alone. I used to do this game. What about Uncle Gary? Uncle Gary had a lot of trainers, I know. And I sure you know one of Uncle Gary data. I sure you know one of Uncle Gary data, which is not your iPhone. So they must mind their business. They must go and straighten up their business.
I agree.
I don't like to hear how thing. And all the good people, they're taking them out from GBN, but Godfrey Augustine, this still. Lou Smith gone. What they call him gone. But Godfrey Augustine. Godfrey Augustine running down GBN gone right down to the ground. I don't hardly listen to GBN. Only when I listen to GBN. You see, when how they call him was there, well, Brenda gone on holiday now. And the other lady, they don't listen to her.
Mm-hmm.
But when they gone, I gone too, I don't listen to GBN. Because GBN gone to the dogs. I'm afraid to say it. Godfrey Augustine make GBN gone to the dogs. I don't afraid to say it. And my dear darling, what I want to tell you again, the senior citizen, they have next week, Wednesday, is they starting to pay in St. David, because you know why? Friday is the 25th.
Right.
And Friday is holiday.
Right.
So they're starting to pay Wednesday, Thursday, and then the Monday and the Tuesday in the next week.
Okay.
So you go pass it on to those senior citizens from a plea that is a senior citizen is with darling.
All right.
So, my dear sweetheart, you have a wonderful and a blessed day. God bless you and I love you, baby.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Right.
All right. We always love hearing from Miss Jacob. We definitely do. We always love hearing from her. Oh, wow. Look who I have in studio with me today. Aren't I happy? Yes, yes. We have Mr. Bola. See, I don't like to sit down and talk by myself for 2 hours, so I always bother him to come and share his views and opinions because he is one of the politicians that I respect and admire the most because he is a very honest man, very straightforward. He doesn't hide behind politics or opinions or, these things. He's very straightforward. So I always love hearing from him and hearing his views on a lot of things. Now, I don't know if you were listening. We just had a call from a lady in New York. She's listening, Jamaican American, and she's very happy with what's happening in Grenada. But before we talk about that, we have another call on the line. Let's take that call first. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Green Man is speaking here.
Good to hear from you, Green Man.
Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, sir.
Green Man.
Green
I
Man.
want to say something. Last night I was listening to news and the union was talking about raise up pay and see the government keeping back things. But what I want to say, this government is the only government that always agreed to pay salary and pay workers dues and things. I don't see when NDC was in power 2008, who they jail? They jail a man for fighting for the workers' rights. Put him in prison.
Okay.
So I don't know where to get that from. The government banning and don't want to do anything. It's them because they put politics in it.
Okay.
If they were dealing right, everything was fixed already because my prime minister are always willing to pay.
And you're so correct about that.
So I don't know why. They must have to take out politics and do the people work what they have to do, right? Only politics in this country. And you have a nice day.
Well, you have a very blessed one too, and thank
right.
you for that comment.
Bye-bye.
If I should just make a quick, you have another call? Wow, they're coming in fast.
They're coming in fast today. Good morning, caller. Oh, we seem to have lost. Go ahead and call back if you can.
I think there's another one on the line again.
Oh, another one on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hi, morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. Morning, Roland. How are you?
I'm well. Very well. Good morning to you.
It's been a while, bro.
Been a while. Been a while.
Now, the question with regards to the increase in the price for a passport, I think it's something we need to spend more time explaining the rationale behind the increases, because I remember when the reconstruction levy was introduced, there were a number of persons who gave a lot of false information with regards to how much they had to pay, until the permanent secretary at that time went on television and did an actual calculation as to how much it would actually cost somebody. And I think we need to do something like that, with showing persons exactly, or keep reminding them exactly how much it costs to produce one of these passports, and why the subsidy and why it cannot be subsidized any further. Because you see, if we allow people to give the wrong information, then people will always complain. And we want people to understand that this is not about government being senseless or heartless, but it is about something that needs to be done, because remember, we have just come out of a recession of sorts, and we need to make sure that we do not go back into it because of unplanned spending. And I think it is important that this program be used in that light, seeing that this is, of course, the program of the ruling party. That's just my take on it, Roland. And take care of you guys yourself. Have a beautiful day. All right?
You'll be good, Alan.
You too. And as soon as Alan is finished, we have another caller on the line. We seem to have lost that caller. All right, go ahead, Mr.
I just
Boland.
wanted to add my 2 pence. First, with the previous caller to Alan, I think we have to make it absolutely clear that this government has always been the government most willing to settle wage issues with the unions, to pay increases to workers. I mean, we just look at the era not too long ago, 2008 to 2013, absolutely no increase. Even increments workers could not get. However, the government came in and immediately settled on an agreed amount before, paid over $44 million in back pay, and was able to give increases totaling 10% over the last 3 years. 2017, January 3%, 2018, January 3%, January 2019, 4%, and has gone forward and told the unions we should start negotiating for the 2020 period onwards, right? The issue is, let us do those kinds of negotiations in a reasonable and, as was said by the minister yesterday, in a fact-based environment.
Of course.
And the government did inform the union since June or early July of the year that, listen, we must start going to the table. We must go there with facts. We must be rational in our demands. The issue is, we all know the sacrifices that Grenadians made because of the structural adjustment program. We all know the reason why Grenadians had to make those kind of sacrifices. It was because, of course, our country was spending more than it could afford. And of course, we don't want to get back to those stages. We know that yes, the economy is doing better. We know that the government is collecting more. But even if that is the case, are we collecting more for one sector of the society? It has to be shared. I mean, look, people are quarreling about passport. The same issue. Oh, the government should not increase the price. It's costing the government in excess of $300 to produce one of those passports. They are now charging $250, which means that they're still subsidizing. Where is the money coming from to subsidize? Passport is not bread and butter. Everybody don't get a passport every day. So those who are complaining that the poor people will not be able to afford a passport, they're just being hypocrite. They're just playing political games. These same poor people, check them. And I'm not saying that they should not get fancy things and they should not look well. Of course, by all means. But these are the same people who buy the Snickers for $450. These are the people you see with 2 cell phones at $1,000 for one.
Yeah.
We may want to sell. Some people may argue this is a necessity. I don't know if it is. These are the same people that go to the shows that cost $75, $80, and they would drink 4 or 5 beers for the night.
Yeah.
I'm saying, not that they should not, if that is what they like to do, but if a passport becomes a necessity for them, they would have to make the sacrifice and prioritize.
You're right.
So there's hardly, in my opinion, any issue about the price. Government is not overcharging. They are still subsidizing, but they're saying, look, we have an electronic passport, which is where we're supposed to go. The whole issue of terrorism and everything, we're trying to deal with it one day at a time. These are the same people who complain that we should be like the first world country, and we're trying to get there, but they expect to get there free. There's no free ride.
We have another call on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
I'm good.
Mr. Bola.
How are you, sir?
Mr. Mills in Bella Carriacou, man. What's up?
I am well, brother. I'm well, very well.
Every time I hear you talking on the radio, my head does walking.
Oh, Lord.
That's so much good information for the nation.
But I want you here to come back here. Thank you. Thank you.
I hear again now. Which one did you there wrong?
Whom?
The DJ man.
I don't know how you could call him man, the DJ man. The man is the technical operator. He did. Yes, he did.
Right. You want the song I roll and bola.
You want to hear that? Yeah. By now, no election time, you know.
Yeah, we'll be glad up in Carriacou. We hear that?
Yeah.
Yes, man.
Yeah, that's the election road match. We go play it sometime for you. You gonna get it.
Road match, you know.
Yes. Yes.
So you're good otherwise?
Very good, very good. We're getting fine weather. I don't know if it's raining in your neck of the woods.
No, but it's very overcast.
Very overcast. Well, you might get some soon.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, very good.
Well, you all take care. We listen to you all attentively.
Thank you, man. We like that.
The technical man, my son, Mr. Bula.
Yes.
Because listen, I'll tell you something. I have a tape and you work on your cassette, so they're pressing play and record. And I get it. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good one. Take good care. Take good care of yourself.
Mr. Bola, you are so right. The things that concern everybody about the passport does not concern the people who are less fortunate.
Well, it's not really everybody, you know. It's just a few people that have very loud mouth and trying to get ahead, wanting to use every single issue to make it political. I have not heard a poor man complain because, as you rightly said and other callers said, the poor man is not concerned about a passport.
No,
he doesn't. There are people who live and die in Grenada and never owned a passport.
Of course.
Because they never had a reason to own it.
Of
so
course.
What are we worrying about?
Absolutely. You are very right. We have another call on the line. Good morning, caller.
Yes, Ms. Duncan, good morning. Roland Bowler.
How are you, sir? Good morning to you.
Oh, St. David's in the house.
I know who it is, man.
You know,
my good pastor.
Watch me. Put all joke aside.
Yes.
You, Brother Bowler, 432. What you know about 432?
I know about 432. I used to talk about 432 in Parliament.
All right, listen. To be honest with you, brother, whenever something real, listen, the opposing forces in Grenada, they are like the weather forecaster. Whenever something good is going on or is about to go on, these people always want to put,
great clothes over it. Yes.
Yes. Always. And I love that technique. Now, I believe, as I was saying yesterday to Brother Oliver on air, we just need to avoid these critics and them, just go around them and just let it rip, man. Do what we have to do the things that are necessary and priority for the advancement of our people. Everybody across the board, no color, everybody.
Yes.
Every living person. They need to talk about the draining network that we are doing in Grenada.
Yes.
I mean, I pass through different parishes and I see the drain network, the road network, the bushing that is taking place. Even today, even now, as we speak, we're trying to pass a road in a different area because we need to do a piece of road on the farm in Westerhall.
Okay.
So right now, as we speak, we're working on that. We're binding that area. They're not talking about, and they're seeing us, These guys are seeing us. They're noticing what we are doing. So let's keep going, man. Let's keep going. Keep moving.
Thank you, Pastor.
Keep moving, brother.
That's
all right.
our slogan, NNP. We keep moving.
Yes, sir.
We want to move our people upwards. We want to move our people forward. We want to move this country forward. And this country is moving, right? We accept that. We agree with that. And we're saying to the negotiators, we're saying to the public servants, of course you deserve increase in pay, but it must be within reason. It must be affordable and sustainable. You are the ones, of course, and the rest of Grenada certainly, that will suffer if your demands are out of range. Because then what you will have is retrenchment, you would have loss of jobs, the government will become incapable of doing a lot of other social programs. And while I do agree that there are some areas where we need to tighten up and tighten the screws and have better supervision, we have been doing a fairly reasonably good job so far. I think there's another call.
There's another call on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning. Hello, caller. Good morning.
Hello?
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, call back. I just want to do something. Mr. Bola, good morning.
Morning, Sister Kami. Yes, I know it's you, my dear.
You know, you said the exact thing that I said before I make a call a while ago.
Yes.
You know, the people, they're going to buy a phone for how much $1,000.
Yes.
As you said, they're going to show. Nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
You know, I don't know why they're complaining. We complain so much in this country. We complain a little too much in Grenada. And it's just bad-minded people. They have to stop that. Look at where I am living now, Mr. Bona.
Yes.
When I went and live in Bushes,
Yes.
was a trap.
I know.
Was a trap. Right? Right now we have a highway.
Yes.
And this Chinese people, God bless them. The village, this government is doing so much in this country, my God. And these people and them don't have nothing good to say. They're building a house for people. I remember when I didn't have a shelter over my head. And I was comfortable with it, I thank God. You know, these are the things we must talk about what's going on in the country and still happy. You know, you won't agree with everything. We will make mistakes, wrong in building a day. But they're condemning everything that happens under the NP government.
Yes.
And these people and them is so hypocrite. I don't like that. This thing does bother me.
Don't let it bother you, Sister Kami.
Look at what's going on in Syria and place.
Yes.
Hey? Look at what's going on over there. Hey? If you have a passport and you get sick and your family member in America, Canada, England want to bring you for medical, you have your passport.
Yes.
You have to be running back and forth. For 5 years, they're renting cars. I'm a morning, Mr. Bowen. The whole place full of new cars.
Yes, of course we see it all the time.
3 cars in a yard park up.
Yes.
3 cars in a yard park up.
Yes.
All they have to stop this thing in this country and thank God for what we have. And thank God for what is going on. I mean, we can't go backward, we can't go forward.
Yes.
Lord of mercy. I've been talking already for to come.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
I am 62 years of age.
Yes.
And I would like the Ministry of Health
Yes.
to look into what people like me, others in this country, to get real medication.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every time you go by the doctor and you have prescription to go for your medication, you can get.
Okay.
I tired by.
Okay.
If I don't come down here, Mr. Bola, I don't sell water.
Yes.
I can buy voltaren.
Right.
For the pain, Mr.
Yes.
Bola, suffering, sir.
Right.
I want nobody. I'm crying out for people to sorry for me, sir. But I was come and make me also to buy me medication because he don't have one to go there.
Right.
And I make me contribution.
Yes.
I can make me contribution. I should be seeing someone to get 2 voltaren, an injection. I tired buy, I go have money.
Good.
If me friend could have helped me, then I help me. They have their own problem. I can't depend on them. I have my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are their family.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
we understand.
I'm not like some people. I go to this. Those in a town can beg but not now. Still come out every day.
And try to make $1 on your own. Yes.
I still come to look for $1. And every time I get some medication, he don't have.
Right.
So I want the Department of Health trying to do something.
Okay.
Not for me, not for everybody.
For everybody else. It's for the whole of Grenada.
Okay.
Yes. What we're taking...
Against the government, we must speak when things is not right.
I agree with you.
Because a lot of people that in the government sit down and they're not doing nothing. They just care about the money and they care about people.
Yes. Yes.
Because you have to make sacrifice already to build this country the way it is today.
Yes.
And the street back is not doing what it's supposed to do. So look into that for me.
Yes,
please.
Ms. Kami. We'll take note of that. We'll raise it in the appropriate places.
And eat something for one Voltaren injection in the pharmacy. Mm-hmm. I have to take every day.
Wow.
And as a person, I'm struggling.
Yes.
I want no sympathy. I am not calling to talk for sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
But you must do what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to order the medication, you are sick. Why you order more? Don't wait for only just to order.
To order, yes, because it takes time to get here. Yes.
And don't blame it myself.
Yeah.
You blame everything, they blame the Prime Minister.
Yes.
That's a human being.
Yes.
They sit back, they just care about their money, because they're fighting for the stuff they must pay. And they sit up, they're going to work when they want, they're returning at 10 o'clock, they're supposed to take off 8 to 4, they're leaving 3:30, they're leaving 2:30, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. All right.
Okay. You have a blessed one. And she makes a lot of sense in a lot of things. And I was, just before the call came in, I was about to make the point that we don't do everything right. There are things that we need to straighten. There are things that we need to look at and things we need to supervise better. And who has to do it? It's the public servants. And that's why they need to get paid. But they also need to understand, people like Ms. Kami and others, that the monies that the government is getting out of the sacrifices that all Grenadians make is not only to pay the public servants.
And it's not that we're saying that they don't deserve. We really, really, really believe
they do deserve
that they do deserve it. The problem is, if the government is able to do it, they will do it. But we also need to take into consideration that everybody in Grenada is not in the same class. They are not at the same social status and the same level. There are people in Grenada who don't even work for $1 a day but still have to live. So we need to take all of these people into consideration. We have another call on the line. The lines are busy this morning.
Good day, sir. Yeah. Well, you're so right on that, when the time the country gets surplus, it's supposed to be among the people and not for one group of people. And you're so right, that the best way to, I think, the government doing the right thing. Spread it right across the board. Everybody get a little piece. The pensioners get a little piece. The bushers get a little piece.
Yes.
Everybody on the side, the money, whoever, but everybody living in Grenada. Not one step people living in Grenada.
Yeah.
Share it across the board, and I agree with you. I mean, don't come say don't come show here. I think this story. I think they're Nancy or something.
Nancy, yes.
Don't come show here that and them story.
Oh, with Shoma and them and that thing coming up. Yes.
But maybe she doesn't listen to Godfrey and Kim, man. If she listens to Godfrey and Kim, she ain't a lot of Nancy story. Maybe that's why she say a long time she hear, but I don't hear them, man.
Boy. Better you say that, not me.
Godfrey come on the program one day, but the program he work for the cricket, and when I see what he go address the javelin guy.
Yes.
The guy that do well by getting the goal. First thing as he come attacking the Central Sports Day.
Yeah. Cox.
First thing come attacking about going overseas and look for light. I said the important thing right now, if you even say that program by the GBN and not a political program, I see you adjust the Grenada win goal. Let you adjust that first and then don't line to talk about it. First, you have to start up. Here the man with the police on him was on the program. As he start up, it's a Cox. As a king saying, it's a Cox about go and get light. Talk about the javelin man, Grenada goal and first we have this bill of people around the world. We just have like a dot. People can spot us, so if you look on the map, you can see us, and we win a goal. You start talking and you see the program is not a political program. Take care, man.
Take care, you take care too. And that tells us that there are a lot of smart people in Grenada.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes those of us who want to play politics with everything believe that we can fool all the people all the time.
Yeah.
Bob Marley sang that a long time ago. You can't fool all the people all the time. People are smart, people are listening, people are looking, people are seeing. And I mean, as a party and a government, I think we need to do more in terms of spreading the news and the information. But the Grenadian public are very clever. And of course, while some people would agree with some of the things that are happening and some will disagree and will always have distractions, some for and some again, I think the vast majority of Grenadians understand that this government is trying.
Yes.
We're not perfect, but we're trying.
We have a call on the line, but before we take the call, let's just say, because the lines are busy, when you call, try and limit your time so that everybody who's trying to call in can get an opportunity to say something. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Bola, Ms. Duncan. How are you doing?
Yeah,
good morning,
bad, my bro.
Very well. Well, I heard the cry. It's very brief. While I understand that the workers of this country need to feel satisfied, I also believe that the government needs to be satisfied. And that is why the workers' representatives and the government must come to an understanding where both parties are satisfied.
Yes.
Not one set of people could benefit and another set of people would see trouble.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need to, they need to understand that if we have, we give. If we don't have, we give. We can give what we have. And that is understandable. But I believe here it is just more than that. You see, we need to take the politics out of this thing. Take the politics out and let us be genuine.
Agreed.
And it is rather interesting, in my opinion, because between 2008 and 2014, these people got not 1 cent.
And they did nothing about it, eh?
And they did nothing about it.
I mean, to my recollection, I didn't hear about a strike. I didn't hear about a demonstration. I never saw a placard. I didn't hear a call on the radio station. I might be mistaken. Probably there was, but I've never seen or heard about it.
And not only that, between 2008 and 2014, all we were hearing, people were fired left, right, and center.
And crying for the money on month 10. They get
On
it
month 10,
the next month.
I am one of those who were fired by the NDC 8 months before my contract expired without 1 cent, according to the contract agreement. You know, so these people, we need to go back sometimes. Yeah. And what is more amazing to me, there are so much positive in this country happening now. It's been said to criticize the government, but at least give a little praise where praise is due.
Yes, yes.
There are lots of things happening. And that made a difference between an NNP in opposition and an NDC in opposition. Because I believe, I know...
But NDC not in opposition, they're just an opposing force. I just want to correct you.
Yes, thank you. While the NNP was in opposition, though the government didn't do nothing much for 4.5 years, but when they did a little good now and then, the members of the opposition is to applaud the government. But today you have an opposing party, everything ain't good. Now listen, you have the second phase of the Simon Culture Center with the brag about. The second phase already started. How many is on prison? How many say it's a good project? None.
Nothing.
The amount of things that is happening at least. I mean, I could go for the whole day, but I would decry, so I won't be long. Let me leave it to gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you so much,
right.
my bro.
Thank you.
We're happy and we agree with almost everything you said there.
Mr. Bola, if the government, and there are people in the public service, I know of people in the public service, I have family members in the public service, not nurses and doctors and civil servants who actually work hard, who actually do their job, who do the jobs of others who are lacking as well. They deserve more as well. And if the government could pinpoint these people and give it to them, they would. But the fact of the matter is, when the unions negotiate, they negotiate for the public servants that are, and not even all public servants, they negotiate for the public servants who are appointed by the Public Service Commission in a permanent position. That is who they are negotiating for. So we're not saying that they don't deserve. We are not saying that there aren't people out there who work blood and teeth and nails to get the job done.
Quite a number of them do.
There are a lot of them who deserve. But sometimes it just takes a few to spoil the way for many. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning. Is this Miss Duncan?
Yes, it is.
And Brother Bowler is there with you.
Yes, I am. I am right here.
Okay. I'm going to be very brief. I just have a quiz for you and Brother Bowler.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not good at quizzes.
If you have a drum that's full on one side and you have a drum that's empty on the other side, which one makes the most noise?
Thank you very much. I understand.
Okay, that's my quiz.
Yes.
You got my message.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely right. Absolutely
very clear. Let's just say that. For the life of me, I just never understand. Why is it that when it comes to salary negotiations, why do we believe it always have to be contentious?
Yeah.
Why do we believe it always has to go to demonstration and strike and lockdown? Why can't we be civil enough? And the unions do their research because the government has offered. They said, look, our books are here. You can, if you don't believe what we're saying, get your independent accountants and whoever will open the books to you. You look at it, crunch the numbers, and let us see where the facts are, and let's reason within facts. Anyway, there's another caller.
Another caller on the line. Oh, they cut off. But Mr. Bona, and they still, even with all of that information, still say that the government is not transparent, that the government is not accountable. They are giving you the information. These are the books. These are our numbers. They are open to you to review.
Of course. So if you believe what I am saying as government is not the facts, we are saying, the government is saying to you as the unions, you can get independent people of your own, of your choice. Let them come and look at the numbers themselves. You don't have to agree with what I say. And the government is saying, look, you are asking for a certain sum that it is almost impossible to give, because if we do, there's so much other programs that we have to close down over the next 3 years. But this is what we can afford and we can offer at this time. And let's continue to build and work, and everyone making sacrifice must benefit. The people who go to the dispensary must be able to go because they don't afford to pay and get the medication free or at a reduced price, because they're Grenadians too. They pay taxes too. Why should the public servants and some who sometimes don't even perform? And I'm not saying all public servants. There are, as we has established already, there are some extremely good public servants. Work go beyond the call of duty, goes in early, leaves late, work during lunchtime hours, does a lot to help the system to move forward and to provide services for people. Of course they are. And of course we have to agree, and some of them know who they are. That doesn't bother at all. It takes weeks with one document on the desk, only for a signature, only for them to look over. And they won't do it, right? But they have to benefit too. They are in the system, yes? And we're saying that, look, $90.5 million over the next 3 years is going to cripple the administration. It's going to cripple the economy. The children who get the opportunity for a scholarship, those who the government assists to go to TAMCC, the hundreds of children that government subsidized to go to St. George's University, they won't be able to get that because all of it will be going to the couple of public servants, right? The police now happy because they have more transport now than ever in the time of the service. Not that they just want transport to move around, but in the dispensation of the duties, they need to be adequately prepared with the equipment that they need. We complain. We say this constituency need a fire truck. We talk about roads. Even this morning on a certain radio station, the host and another person was speaking, and we're talking about, the traffic, and they need to be flyovers and what have you. And the announcer went on to talk about the Chinese engineers that are here. Why can't we use them to help design? Of course we can, and maybe we should, but it costs. It doesn't come just like that. It doesn't come because we wish for it, or we think we deserve it, or we need it. It comes when you can put the finances down for it. So whatever it is that the government is getting now, because of sound economic principles that we have employed, needs to be put in some of those areas.
Absolutely.
And if you take all of it and you just give it to the public servant, all of the many other things you are requesting would not happen. The people of St. David's, they are calling, I hear them myself, different parts of the constituency where they're talking about roads that needs to be repaired. The government just brought in a brand new batching plant for hot mix, right? That they need to set up because the one that is in use now keeps breaking down. Brand new. They're going to set it up soon. So it means that we'd have a more reliable supply of the hot mix to patch and to fix and to resurface some of those roads. It didn't come for free. It was monies. It's a loan that has to be paid back. So when you give all to the public servants, where would you get the money to repay for that when it needs repairs? But even when you set it up, you still need to get the other aggregates and the bitumen and everything to get the hot mix. You need to pay the trucks to bring it out. You need to pay the workers to get it laid on the ground. You have to cater for all of that. The butcher. And I mean, we can go on and on and on. So in the final analysis, we are not saying that public servants must not get increase and that they do not deserve an increase. But what they get must be within reason, must be rational, because of course that pie that you're talking about the government have so much of needs to share. And these are the people that continue to complain about healthcare that the government is trying to fix. These are the people that complain about bad housing that the government is trying to cater more for. These are the people that talks about our roads that we have to repair, our bridges, talks about flooding in some places, talks about areas where we need to see different walls and everything else they complain is the same government, is the same pot, is the same barrel, as the man said, that you have to take from. So if you empty all of what that barrel have into one other barrel and you leave all the others empty, noises will still be made. So let's be rational and let's be reasonable. If you are a public servant, yes, you would like, if I was in the public service, I'd like to get 50% increase. I would hope I could get that.
Of course.
If I can get 50% more this year than I was getting last year, that would be nice. But of course, I'm still a Grenadian and I have to understand that I'm also my neighbor's keeper.
Yeah.
And I would have to understand that it is not only me as a public servant, that deserve to get. And of course, I would understand that if I take a little that the government can offer now within reason, years down the road, I will continue to get, because the economy will continue to grow and to get better. And things will generally get better. When Grenada improves and grow and get better, it's not just for one person. It has to be for everybody.
Of course. And I feel like they believe that because the government is saying that, so the government must stay quiet that the economy is growing. We must not say it. Because once we say that the economy is growing, we feel like there's this big surplus. You know, like when you fill a cup and the whatever is in the cup overflows into the saucer, and then the saucer becomes consumed with whatever liquid it is. They feel like that is what is happening with the government. We have so much money just rolling over, and Dr. Mitchell and his team is just rolling in that large sum of money that is there. And that is not what it is. They have a surplus, which means that now they can do more for the country, and not just for one group of people, but for everybody. And everybody plays an important role, or at least should play an important role in the development of the country. Look at even just the bushes. Can you imagine if there were nobody bushes? What would happen now that all of the rains have fallen? What about our environmental wardens? If there were no environmental wardens, what the government has to find money to pay for these things so our country would be better. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
We're not hearing Mr. Scott these days. What happened to him?
Well, only 2 days.
Well, not these days. 2 days. He was here on Monday. He was here on Tuesday. Him and I were here on Tuesday. And it's just yesterday and today that he had personal matters to attend to.
Right. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome,
we
my
him.
Okay.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Yes. You know, it's very sad that we do not understand and that we don't have that level of patriotism. We all say, I'm a patriot, I'm a Grenadian. But when it comes to actual making the sacrifices for your country, you're not willing to do it.
Well, yes, in some ways. But I don't agree with you 100% there. We may well be patriot. We may be patriotic. We are willing to make sacrifices. But the issue of money is oftentimes so sensational and so emotional that anytime money is involved, we drop and we forget everything else. And that's what we are appealing for to people. We're saying, listen, money is important. We're not in any way trying to minimize the importance of money.
Yeah.
Right? And we're not attempting to say.
Yeah.
And, because there may be some people who may want to say, oh, well, these public servants are greedy and what? Absolutely not. Many of them deserve what they're asking for and probably even more. But even though that is a reality in some instances, the bigger reality is, can we afford to do what they're asking for now and still be able to do all the many other things that government... Because you see, government is not only there to take care of salary and wages and pensions at the end of every month.
Yeah.
There's so much other things government have to do. It's like a family. You have one child going to university, and that may be a priority for you because you want that child to graduate and probably graduate with honors. So you would put most of the resources to ensure that happens.
Yeah.
But you have others. You have those who go to primary school. You have those who go to secondary school. You still have the utility bills to pay. You've got to put food on the table. So whatever it is that is coming in, you have to budget it in such a way.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to postpone some of your payments. And even for the university child that you have, you may have to make an arrangement with the university and say that the fees is X amount. But here's my predicament. So I can pay 50% now and stagger the other payment. And that's all the government is saying, you know.
And I listened to Mr. Pear on GBN the other day, and he gave an analogy about the home as well. And he made a statement to say, how can the father is making more money and he's giving the money that he's making to the neighbors and to everybody else, but the children are starving. But that is not an analogy to give, because are the children starving? That is the question.
The Grenadians,
are they starving?
Which I guess his reference is the public service.
The public service.
No, they're not.
Are they starving?
They can get more.
They
may
can get
need
more. Exactly.
They may have a bigger appetite.
But can they deal with what they have now? Can they make it work until we are at a place where we can say, yes, we are so good economically that our revenue can be shared amongst the public service and shared amongst the less fortunate and shared among the programs and shared among the children in such a way that everybody is happy. We want to be at that place, which is why we are exercising fiscal responsibility.
And we have to continue to exercise fiscal responsibility because we know where we came from.
Yeah.
And during that time, when we were heading into that structural adjustment, I used to be on the platform, active in politics then, more than I am now in terms of governmental thing. And I used to refer to Grenada then as a ship that was in troubled waters, was in stormy waters, where we could have gone down any time because the waves were large and we were struggling to survive. And we got a captain in Dr. Mitchell who was able to steer us away, remove us from those stormy waters and brought us into calmer waters. But I oftentimes said to people that, listen, if we misjudge what we're doing, if we do not take caution, if we do not continue to steer the ship and to be on the lookout, we can easily drift back.
Of course.
Because we're still on the ocean.
Of course.
We are not on dock. We are not on dry land. Yeah. We are still out there. Yeah. And yes, we have been sailing much smoother over the last couple of years. But it doesn't mean that stormy waters doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that if we do not take the necessary precautions and manage and the crew doesn't work well, that we can't spring a leak and get back into stormy waters and start going down again. So because today we are sailing a lot easier, doesn't mean that we must do foolishness. Doesn't mean that we must become careless. Doesn't mean that we must take actions and do things that are not prudent. And that goes to the union leaders as well. Grenada is your home as well. And while you have to do and strive to get the best for your members, you have to do it within reason.
And you know, it leads me back to something I was thinking about the other day. Let's take one public servant, for example. This public servant has been working for their permanent, working for odd amount of years. They receive an increase, right? They could get more, but they receive an increase. Their life is flourishing. They can afford to do more. But then what if that same public servant, yes, I'm doing well. I'm going to spend my money on this and I'm going to put more money into that and I'm going to live lavishly because now I'm making more money, right? Loses their job within months of getting a salary increase or within months of their economy or their financial status flourishing, loses their job. That means they're back in a hole. They would have made no preparations for something like that to happen. It's the same as with Grenada. We are flourishing economically. We are doing well as a country. But it does not mean that now we can splurge and we can spend and we can put more money here and put more money there. And we must first think about what if. If something happens, we must make preparations that our people can still be taken care of when that time comes or if that time comes. And that is what the fiscal responsibility law does for us. That is what it does for us. It actually puts a handcuff on the government, and that's what people don't understand. That rule puts a handcuff on the government. So the government put a handcuff on themselves so that they are responsible for the people's money. So they spend money responsibly. They allocate money responsibly. And that is basically what it is. It wasn't done in spite of to spite the union or to spite anybody within the country and say, oh, no, we can't give you no more because, it's not a crutch. It's a handcuff. And it's meant, we should look at it as that. We should look at it as a benefit for our people, because our government cannot now go and say, well, we're spending $20 million on one thing because it is not within their range. It's not within their reach. They can't do it. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you guys. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
Right. No, listening to the discussion there, and civil servants and their increases. Now, yes, the economy might not be able to sustain that volume, if ever, at this point in time. However, you see, civil servants need to get the right pay, and that has very little to do with people, we on the outside. You see, whilst they get pay from the government coffers, we supposed to get to develop by way of spend, by the way of the growth of the economy. And that is where the problem is, It's not the question of civil servant wanting too much money or the government not being in a position because they put a law in place, right? The fiscal responsibility law. Because remember, there was a contract signed with the citizens that give us 3 years out of the 5 years, and we're going to come back to the public. And we're going to release you from the burden which we placed on you. I knew that wouldn't happen. I knew that. And so it couldn't happen because it would bring us back to square one, right? So we understood this. But you see, the problem is the economy is not growing fast enough to cater for the increase to the civil servant. And that is where the government is struggling. Could we grow the economy, as I say, exponentially so that revenue could flow, jobs could be created, people can spend, and so the government will get monies instead of going and look for look for loans? That is the problem. I am struggling with this because I just have a conversation with the Minister of Finance there. And what I am trying to do on the ground is to create a situation where the economy can grow base. So what we do what we call infrastructure. That is where the economy have to start growing. Once you could get the infrastructure going, roads, water, electricity, then people can find place to go to start new businesses, to create new revenue source, to create better employment, more jobs, and in the end, better salary. So as people spend, then the government can see the revenue qualifying itself to do their duties and to pay increased salary. So everything has to do. And this thing which is going on and on and on with the government and the civil servant is going to hurt everybody because the government is spending too much time and the civil servant is spending too much time discussing this thing. And then the economy, which have to benefit all of us, the growth of the economy is being suffered. Yeah. So what I think the government have to do is, yes, while it's negotiating, but you must put a program in place to grow the infrastructure, which is the road, water, electricity, in where we does not have these services, so that people can find new place to go to create new jobs and salaries. Yeah. If the government put a program in place to do that, I believe in time the government will raise much more revenue to be able to deal with the what you call wage bill and other expenses. So my recommendation right now, irrespective of what is going on with the government, yes, it's going to take some time. The government must put a program in place to take the infrastructure to task. We have a lot of rundown roads that should be resuscitated. We have new roads to put. We're not putting these roads. And therefore, when people come to invest, they say, well, they want concession because they have to build their own roads. No. Government put the roads in advance and the services in advance. And people look to see where they need to put X or Y down, and then take it from. The government has no concession to give anybody, be it tax breaks or what.
Caller?
In place.
Hi, caller. I don't want to cut you, but we're way over time.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you. Thank you for those suggestions.
Thank you.
Good ones they are, but, there are some things that are inconsistent in what you said. In terms of after 3 years, government did go back to the people, and, of course, there were some concessions. So, for example, I can tell you that the public servants did get a little one-off as means for the sacrifices that they made, that government paid them. But more than that, those of us who were paying income tax in the bracket above $3,000, that fell from 15% of the excess to now 10% of the excess, and other small things. We don't have the time to go through it now. And while the suggestion of putting in the infrastructure on the road, if you remember earlier on, I talked about the new plant that government just purchased for the hot mix and several things that would happen in time. So it's in process. If the money was available, all of it would have been done one time. But it has to go step by step. And so we want people to understand that it is a process. It is not a thing where whatever we have goes into one basket, but it has to be spread equitably around, because you have to grow the economy, as the gentleman said, continue to grow it and create opportunities for all Grenadians. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Bola, it's always a pleasure having a conversation with you. Like I said, so full of information, a wealth of knowledge. So we do have a lot of things to talk about, a lot of information that we have to give you, but of course we are out of time. After this program goes off, what we do have is actually a presentation by the NIS on explaining actually the increase in detail, that 1% increase, because a lot of us still don't understand what it's about. So we do have that after, 2%. But you can stay on the live feed and take a look at that. Very informative, very interactive session, and you're guaranteed to learn a lot from it. So, of course, we are out of time. And, of course, in whatever you say and do, be safe and secure. I want to be talking with you and not about you. Have a wonderful day, Grenada.
Seatbelts are not as confining as a wheelchair. Drive carefully. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Grenada, it's coming as the Ministry of Youth, Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
At this time, we're going to invite to the podium Lisa Douglas. She is the Public Relations Officer at the National Insurance Scheme. And we know within the last few months, there has been much dialogue about some new changes that is to come at the NIS. So she's here now to speak to us on that and answer your questions.
Thank you very much. Good night to everybody. I must say good night to our Prime Minister, our Ministers of Government, the President of the Senate, my Director who is here, and all of you, I'm sure, who are contributors, pensioners, beneficiaries in one way or another of the NIS, right? Okay, so tonight we will be talking about the NIS Improvement and Sustainability Plan. And I will try to get through what we have outlined here. We'll look briefly at our performance over the years, key findings, some regional comparisons, what do we need to do going forward, and then we would conclude. Now, on April 4th, 1983, the NIS started, and we commenced providing short-term benefits, sickness, maternity, funeral, long-term benefits, age, invalidity, and survivors. And later on, in 1998, employment injury benefit was introduced, and it was funded by an additional 1% in the contribution rate. So in 1983, employees contributed 4%, employers contributed 4%, giving us a total of 8%. And when employment injury came in, the employers pay an additional 1% so we could enjoy that benefit. So this year we celebrated 36 years. Now let's just look a little bit briefly on the governance of the NIS. How is the NIS governed? I know sometimes persons would say, you know what, I'm paying my NIS every month, but I don't have a say in what happens. But letting you know tonight that we all have a say. So the board is tripartite, meaning the three main stakeholders are represented on the National Insurance Board. So we have 2 members representing government, 2 representing employers, and 2 representing employees. And from 1983 to now, we have been tripartite both in law and in practice. There are some countries where even though on their law books it's supposed to be tripartite, the government would just choose all the representatives. But in Grenada, it has never happened, and I hope it will never happen. So the Trade Union Council would always choose its 2 representatives. The Employers Federation has always chosen its 2 representatives, and then the 2 from government, and the 7th person is the director of the national insurance. So when it comes to good governance, we have done well in that area. Our investment committee, a committee of the board, is also tripartite, and the regulations also makes provision for an appeals tribunal. So if you're not satisfied with a decision of the director, you can appeal independently. You don't have to pay for it. You simply come into the office, fill out your form, and you will have a hearing before an independent appeals tribunal. And they are up functioning. So what have we done from 1983 to now? How has the NIS contributed to Grenada? Now, I remember last December, the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank went on record stating that NIS Grenada is one of the most efficiently run social security organizations in the region. And I think that is something that is noteworthy and we should be proud of. So from 1983 to December 2017, the NIS has paid $707 million in benefits to contributors. That's how we have served the public. So we have paid short-term benefits, $118 million. Long-term benefits, that's where our pensions fall, $571 million. Employment injury benefits, 11.4. And of course, in order to pay, we must collect. The money must come from somewhere. So we have collected $1.2 billion in contribution income. Now, the way the NIS works, you pay contributions, and the additional funds, the excess funds that we don't use to pay benefits immediately, are invested to keep the fund going, right? So when it comes to investment income, we have earned $606 million in investment income during that same period. So you see that we are working. So that gives us a total income of $1.8 billion. And after 2004, in September 2004 rather, I'm sure maybe all of us here would have experienced what Hurricane Ivan did to our beautiful island. We experienced the devastation, the unemployment, because people were displaced from their jobs. A lot of our buildings were destroyed, and a lot of persons were unemployed. And although unemployment is not a benefit that is funded, is not a benefit that is provided by NIS Grenada. So the contribution rate doesn't cover for a benefit called unemployment. But the NIS is also socially responsible, and the National Insurance Board showed its social responsibility by paying unemployment benefits to the tune of $6.37 million to persons who were displaced after Hurricane Ivan. So I'm sure there are even persons in here who could attest that they were very happy to receive that benefit. And the NIS reserves, the reserves is like your money in your bank, right? The NIS reserves have grown from $4.1 million in 1983 to $967 million at the end of 2017. So the reserves is on a good footing currently. Investment income for the last 10 years, we have earned an average of $32 million annually. Yeah, I told you the governor said we were efficient, right? So we're not just collecting the money and putting it aside. Yes, we're prudently investing. So let's just go back and watch the figure again. Yes, that's what we on average earn in investment income. But as with everything else, as with every business, as with your personal life, and in every area of life, it's always important to do a review. It's always important to take a step back to see where you are and where you need to go. And NIS is no different. Now, the way NIS works, it's based on a couple of concepts. One of those concepts is called solidarity. Because believe it or not, the 9% that you contribute is not enough to pay you a pension for the rest of your life. Even if you might say, I'm not getting enough, it's not enough to pay you a pension for life. In fact, it's not enough to pay you short-term benefits plus a pension. All right? So it means somebody, and we all have to work together to pay for each other. So Social Security is based on the concept of solidarity. So there is one fund called the National Insurance Fund. And when we all contribute, the monies go into that one fund, and we all benefit from it. It is also based on the concept of intergenerational transfers. So your 9% is not enough to pay your pension for life. So Social Security says, okay, I'm charging you 9%, but you know what? Somebody has to pay for it, so I'm going to make your children pay for it. Yeah? So each generation pays the pension of the one who went on before. So let me see all our pensioners here tonight. All our pensioners? Right. So those of us who are working, we are paying for them to get a pension now. All right? And because of that, look at what is happening here. So it means if paying an NIS pension is based on intergenerational transfers, you want to have a lot of persons contributing so you could get your pension. So look at what has happened over the years. In 1995, we had 18.4 persons contributing for this handsome gentleman here. Look at how that has gone down in 2018. In 2018, it was at 5.4. So think about it. Here, 18 persons were contributing. Now, less persons are contributing. Yeah, so he's still there, he's living longer, but he has less persons paying so he could get his pension. So we would start talking about sustainability now. So there are factors that would affect how sustainable, whether or not the NIS would continue for years to come. And let's look at them. Births and deaths, right? Persons are living longer. Whether or not you want to say watch the death news. That is not a scientific approach because a name could be repeated over and over. So you can't say watch the death news. That's not a good way to gauge it. You have to actually look at births and deaths to determine whether or not people are living longer. And according to our records, persons are living longer. But women are having less and less children. So because it's based on look at how much children your great-grandparents had, your grandparents, your parents. Look at how much you have. And you would see that women are having less children. So this is how the equation looks. The pensioners are living longer, but we have less contributors coming in to pay their pension. We also have the factor of number of workers. Okay? So the more persons we have working, yeah, it means that, so unemployment plays a factor. So if unemployment is high, it means we have less persons contributing. So we always have to make sure we look at that. Migration is also a factor because who migrates? People who are young, people who are contributing. So if our students continue to go and not come back, it means they're in a country contributing to the development of that country and not here, where they could be paying for somebody to get a pension. Productivity, and Mr. Pay mentioned it. Sometimes we don't think about productivity, but the more productive you are, the more your employer could expand, the more the business does well, even in government, well, especially in government. So when you're on your desk doing nothing, it's costing the country money. And also, it affects, in turn, the NIS, all right? So we have to remain productive because it affects all of us. So all of these factors affects the sustainability of the NIS because it means less money is coming in so the pensioners could continue getting the benefits.
So look at what has happened with the growth in income and growth in expenditure over the years. So the green line, even if you can't see the figures, just look at the line. The green line here, we see this growth in our income. So we see that our income has grown by 21.2% over the period, 21.2. Look at the growth in our expenditure, 122.6%. Just from that alone, you know persons living longer, because that is where our pensions are paid. That's where our benefits are paid. So our benefit payout is growing at a much, much, much faster rate than we are collecting. Now, every 3 years, we are mandated by the national insurance laws to carry out an actuarial review. The purpose of the review is to ensure that the benefits that we're offering are relevant, meaning that it's meeting your needs as workers, and also to ensure that the National Insurance Fund remains sustainable. The actuary would do a report submitted to the government, and containing in that report are usually recommendations for the sustainability and for improvements. Now, the actuary made some key findings after the 10th actuarial review. And the actuary said, starting in 2016, annual contributions will be insufficient to meet total expenditure. So the contributions that we're collecting would not be enough to pay out the benefits and other expenditures. So at that point, investment income must be used to cover the shortfall. And I'm sure if any of you here looked and are paying attention, and you should because it's your business, what's happening with the NIS, you would realize that in 2016 it happened. Since 2016, on a monthly basis, the NIS pays out more in benefits than it's collecting in contributions. And just think about it for a moment. If you had a shop, right? Prices raise, things go up, and you decide, you know what, I love my customers too much. Although this price was $9, now it's $12. I'm not going to increase my price. What would happen to the business? All right, so let's continue. So the actuary said that in 2016 this would happen. And it did happen, and it continues to happen. And the actuary said that changes are necessary. And if nothing is done, come 2022, total income in this case, so total income would be contribution income plus investment income, would not be able to cover expenditure. And in this case, what would we have to do? Dip into the reserves. So remember I said we have reserves right now, but the actuary saying once you start spending more on a monthly basis than you're collecting, eventually you have to go into the bank. And what you have in reserves would not last forever if you still decide, let me do nothing. And by 2035, if we decide still we're not doing anything, make all the excuses in the world why we should not do nothing, the reserves would drop to zero, and the contribution rate would automatically have to go to 22.5%. So no consultation or discussion would be necessary. Just to keep afloat, the contribution rate would have to be 22.5%. And this is just a snapshot of our current experience. These are 4 of our pensioners. This one here, it shows you for pensioner A, the pension received over $196,000. Look how much that person contributed during their working life. Just over $45,000. So this one received over 4 times as much, right? This one here is deceased. This one, those 3 down here are still alive. This one has already received 7 times as much as they contributed. And there might be people that's still saying, well, it's kind of low, but look how much they paid compared to what they actually contributed. So we see where the intergenerational transfers comes in. And this is another snapshot of our pensioners in 2018. So you could see the age distribution. You see that 100, we have over 13 persons who are over 100 plus. 95 to 99, we have over 34 persons. 90 to 94, 132. Look, 70 to 74. And remember, I said the 9% is not enough to pay you a pension for life. In fact, it's only enough to pay you a pension for 3 years. So by the time you reach age 63, some people in this group here and everybody else have already received what they paid. So what they're getting is what you and I are contributing today. So we see, ladies and gentlemen, that the sustainability of the NIS is affected. And I know one of the things people are quick to say, we already know is not management, because we see how efficient we are working in terms of investment. One of the other excuses persons normally make is that government taking all NIS money, which is the furthest thing from the truth. So I could tell you that categorically tonight. And I always say, we normally talk about that, but every country has to invest in its government. Even the mighty US of A, who we normally take our benchmark from, all of their social security funds are invested in their government. But look how NIS Grenada is doing compared to the other islands in the region. So our exposure to government, look where we are here, at 23.3%. Let's start at the top. We have Anguilla. 77% of their social security funds are invested in their government. Barbados, we normally benchmark against them too. 75% of their social security, of their NIS, is invested in government. Dominica, 41%. St. Vincent, 31%. So we see that we are actually not doing too bad at all. And in fact, since 2015, we are happy to say that the government, when it comes to paying its contributions and also paying all returns on investments, have never been late and are up to date. Okay, so everything is paid up. So we can't say, like some countries, government not paying their contributions, so that's why NIS is in this situation. No. Now, so we see here, since the debt restructuring, everything is up to date. And so since 2015, the government has paid in excess of $25 million to the NIS. And I must also mention, in the debt restructuring, we did not take a haircut. So you should also feel proud about that. There was no haircut, so we don't have to worry. We normally hear these kind of white noises on the radio, but it did not happen to the NIS. But look at what has happened over the years, not just in Grenada, but throughout the region. Sometimes we think it's Grenada alone that's experiencing those sustainability issues. So the issue is not with the NIS, but in how these social security programs are designed. So all over the world, social security, all programs are going through reform. So look, Antigua is reforming. Antigua has had to increase their pension age. We're in 2019, they're already at 62. They also had to increase their contribution rate. We're in 2019, it's at 13% currently. So if you decide, okay, let me move to Antigua, you'll be paying 13%. And they also are increasing the number of contributions required to get a pension. So in Grenada, it's 500. Antigua is saying that, you know what, we have to take additional measures. So now in Antigua, you need 600, and by 2025, you would need 750. And as we move on, we would see the same thing. You say, okay, let me go to Dominica. Dominica's retirement age is already 64. Their contribution rate is already 12.75, and by 2031, it would be 15.75. So it's increasing also. Same thing, well, actually, worse in Barbados. In Barbados, you decide, okay, let me go to the flatlands. Retirement age 67, okay? And there are talks to increase it further. And the contribution, what's the contribution rate? 9%, 11%? What's the contribution rate? 23.85%. Same thing in St. Vincent. The pension age currently 62. The contribution rate 10%, and they're also increasing the number of contributions required to get a pension. Same thing in Anguilla, BVI, Montserrat, and I could go through all of the islands and you would see that is the same thing. So the actuary is saying that we have to wake up and realize if we want to protect this institution that is serving the entire Grenadian population, we have to make changes, okay, to ensure its sustainability. So the actuary made the recommendation to gradually increase the pension age over a period of time from 60 to 65. But even when the pension age increased, you would still have the option to get your pension at 60. That would not change. So if you look at all the other countries who have increased, you still have the option to decide, you know what, I want my pension at 60, but at a reduced rate for every month you take it too early. So for every month you take it earlier than you're supposed to, you would get a suggested 0.5%. That equals to 6% per year. So every year you retire earlier than you're supposed to, you get a reduction. And you also have the option now to take it later. So if you decide, let's suppose the pension age right now is 62, and you decide, you know what, let me work for an extra year and take it at 63. In that case, you get an increase on your pension, same 6%. So you have flexible retirement. So depending on how you feel, you get to decide when you want to retire. Yeah? The other thing that the actuary suggested is a 2% increase in the contribution rate. Okay? And I must say that that increase has been approved and it will take effect from January 1st, 2020. So we're still discussing the pension age. We still want to hear from you in terms of how it should be increased. But the contribution rate will go from 9% to 11% January 1st, 2020. So employees would pay an additional 1% and employers will pay an additional 1%. So employees will go from paying 4% to 5% and the employer from 5% to 6%. So as I conclude, it's important to point out that Grenada is the only country in the OECS who is lagging behind in terms of ensuring the sustainability of its social security. And it's something that we really have to wake up and pay attention and realize for the contribution that the NIS is making to our island, we need to do something before our rate has increased to 22.5%.
Grenada is the first country to sign vesting order for Republic Bank acquisition of Scotiabank. Details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, October 16th, I am Rakisha St. Louis. Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, on Wednesday became the first regional leader to sign the vesting order required to facilitate the acquisition of the Bank of Nova Scotia operations by Republic Bank Financial Holdings Limited. The planned acquisition was first announced in 2018, and in September this year, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, in consultation with the ECCB Monetary Council, approved the application for the transfer of Scotiabank's assets and liabilities in Grenada and 5 other Caribbean countries. Dr. Mitchell, who is the current chairman of the ECCB Monetary Council, said it was important for Grenada to show leadership in the conclusion of the matter.
I see Republic Bank, given its history of banking relations with international institutions as a very important factor in the decision that I made for Grenada's case. And I think the Monetary Council, when it debated the issue over and over, I think we felt that that was a key factor.
Government has earned just over $2 million in taxes from the acquisition deal. More importantly, Dr. Mitchell said protecting the rights of workers was a key consideration in giving final approval to the acquisition, and he spoke of consultation with the Technical and Allied Workers Union in ensuring fair treatment of Scotiabank's employees. The Prime Minister spoke of the importance of banks in Grenada and other Caribbean countries having international relations with powerful banking institutions.
Every country that's involved in the union has an important role to play. And Antigua, given the size of the banking institution in Antigua, we cannot see this as just an issue for just individual countries. It has to be seen as a unified approach. And that's why we've been counseling our friends throughout the region, and Antigua in particular, that we need to do this together.
Also present at Wednesday's signing ceremony was Scotiabank's Managing Director, Caribbean East, Mr. David Parks, Managing Director, Republic Bank, Mr. Keith Johnson, and President General of the Technical and Allied Workers Union, Senator Andre Lewis. They all expressed the confidence that the interest of workers was well protected in the acquisition. A memorandum of understanding between Scotiabank and TAU was signed in September, setting out provisions to safeguard the rights of workers with respect to continued employment or severance. The role of government in facilitating the transaction was also recognized, and assurances were given that customers would continue to experience excellent customer service and appreciation expressed for the loyalty of customers over the years. Continuing with the news, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell, will present the 2019-2020 estimates of revenue and expenditure on Wednesday, November 20th at the Houses of Parliament at Mount Weldale. The 2020 budget presentation, like the throne speech, will highlight strategic priorities aligned to the National Sustainable Development Plan 2020-2035. The estimates will focus on putting Grenadians at the center of inclusive and sustainable development, competitive economic transformation, and security. During a budget retreat in August, Dr. Mitchell said, and I quote, "Government recognizes that there is much work to be done to advance its sustainable development agenda and to build resilience. Therefore, the plan will serve as an anchor of the country's development agenda for the period 2020 to 2035, unquote. The presentation of the budget follows months of consultations throughout the island with stakeholders who outlined the areas they wish to see addressed in the budget. Prime Minister Mitchell's presentation of the 2020 estimates of revenue and expenditure will commence at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, November 20th. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Grenada, it's coming as the Ministry of Youth, Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts brings to you National Youth Week 2019, and it's one full week of activities, vibes and action as the nation turns their attention on the nation's youth. And it's from Saturday, October 19 till Saturday, November 2nd under the theme Embracing Opportunities, Sowing Higher. October 19th and 20th, National Community Service Weekend, island-wide. October 26th, Health Walk and Ministers Address. October 28th, WeiVybz. October 29th, St. John's Youth Parliament. October 30th, Job Fair and Career Day. October 31st, Fun Nights. November 1st, Discovering Talents and Expo. November 2nd, it's National Youth Awards. Sunday, November 3rd, Ecumenical Service and Peace Concert. So urging everyone to be a part of Youth Week 2019, October 19th to November 2nd.
Welcome back. Government is moving towards implementing a ban on smoking in public places, including vaping and e-cigarettes. The announcement was made on Tuesday by Legal Affairs Minister Honourable Kendra Mathurin Stewart. She said, although there is no legislation in place banning the importation, sale and use of e-cigarettes, government has to act now to avoid health hazards and high death toll, as is evident in other countries. E-cigarettes are battery-powered devices that work by heating a liquid into an aerosol that the user inhales and exhales, while vaping is the act of inhaling and exhaling the aerosol, often referred to as vapor, which is produced by an e-cigarette or similar device. Minister Matthew Stewart said Cabinet took a policy decision to pass and enact various legislations to ban smoking in public places.
E-cigarettes is available in Grenada. There is absolutely no legislation at present which prohibits or restricts the importation or sale and use of e-cigarettes here in Grenada. And while we have not yet received any reports of any adverse health effects of vaping from our nationals, we have seen some worrying trends, and we cannot, as a government, wait until we have an issue on our hand to deal with this. So we as a government has been very proactive, and as a government, we intend to put legislation in place to ensure that our health system is no longer compounded by illnesses related to vaping.
She explained that there will be public and stakeholder engagements to get buy-in before a final decision is made.
We are looking at banning smoking in public places. We are also looking at enacting legislations to deal with the importation, sale, and use of e-cigarettes, which includes vaping. Now, before you pass certain legislations, you would appreciate that we need to hold certain consultations and discussions also. So what we have come up with is policy, what is government's policy on with respect to this issue. And so in going forward, even before these legislations are enacted, even before we go to Parliament, we will engage all the stakeholders so that they can have an input as to what the final legislation would look at. But this is really the importation, the ban on the importation, the ban on the sale, and the ban on the use is what we is a broader area that we're going to look at in terms of the legislation.
Finally, in the news, plans are in train to ensure operations at the Maribor Abattoir are at an international standard. Mina Booker, Public Relations Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture, reports on a national biosafety plan that will be developed for this purpose.
Efforts are underway to develop a national biosafety plan that will guide the operations at the Maribor Abattoir in St. Andrew. Management, staff, and butchers of the facility are this week involved in a capacity building initiative with the Inter-American Cooperation on Agriculture, or ICA's agricultural health specialist, Dr. Maxine Paris-Aaron. This is one of a number of initiatives to build capacity for butchers and staff by the Inter-American Cooperation on Agriculture that has been supporting development of the facility since 2018. The training, which began on Monday 14th October, is aimed at developing a biosafety plan, development of a prerequisite hazard analysis and critical control point, or HACCP safety plan, with the goal of becoming HACCP compliant, and the promotion of occupational health and safety standards.
We are interested in food safety, but we're also interested in the safety of the workers at the abattoir. There are a number of risk factors in abattoir. There are hot water tanks, you have sharp objects, you have moving parts, you have equipment, electrical current running through. And many times people can get injured by not doing the right thing. So we recently purchased a number of signs where you can put in strategic places to warn people if there is hot water or slippery floor and things like that. So to make sure, because we think we have an interest in the people who work. We don't just want to have an interest in the food safety, but we have an interest in the people who actually carry out the work here.
That's Derek Charles, the national specialist for ICA. Consultations started with Dr. Paris last year when she first began assessing the operations of the abattoir. This year she has returned to streamline the operations.
What will happen, or what has started to happen really, is a conversation with the staff of the abattoir to ensure that I understand how things are happening as it is now and what needs to be done to bring it up to standard. Basically, the standards we're looking at is international standards for operations. However, you have to start somewhere. And in a lot of cases, it's difficult to jump from where you are into international. There's several steps that have to be taken. So we're looking at those steps that Grenada need to take as it is right now in order to get to where it has to be if it's going to operate as not only a regional entity, a national or regional entity, but operate at international levels.
Acting Chief Veterinary and Livestock Officer Dr. Kimond Cummings says the ministry remains committed to working with ICA as it endeavors for the facility to become an internationally recognized one.
It just shows the seriousness, and how important the Ministry of Agriculture takes on the issue of food safety and food security. Today the training would be more specifically tailored around occupational safety. So if you look, you're seeing quite a bit of signs as signage. So there'll be lots of signs going up and so. In the past coming days, me and Dr. Paris would sit to put together some plans, some TRs that would help the operation to be a bit more smoother and reduce the risk of any occupational hazard that workers here might encounter.
An international facility will help to build customers' confidence by processing safe and quality meats, thus increasing production and reducing the level of backyard butchering done under poor handling practices and unhygienic standards. It will also ensure that employees are aware of occupational and safety standards when operating equipment. ICA supports 38 countries, including Grenada, lending support in agriculture and other areas. For the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Mina Buka.
Thank you, Mina. That story just ended the national report for today, Wednesday, October 16th. Let's recap the top story. Grenada is first country to sign vesting order for Republic Bank acquisition of Scotiabank. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.